Made me shut my phone right off.
Okay.
Oh, did he?
No.
Good. At this time, I'm going to call the March 15th Board of Commissioners meeting to order. At this time, we're going to have a prayer by Commissioner Heberling and then the pledge by myself.
Thank you, Jim. We don't normally do this, but I mean, it's the first time we've done it. But before I pray, I would like everyone, however you want to pray or bow your head. The people in Ukraine are no different than every person sitting here today. If you watch the news, they look like us, they act like us, they have the same care. So I'll probably give you 10 seconds if you want to bow your head and say your prayer yourself and a silent prayer, and then I'll finish up with prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the freedoms of our country. We thank you that you've given us the opportunity to come and to meet as a county and to make decisions. We ask for your guidance and direction on decisions we make today as we lead our county. And Father, again, we go back and ask the protection and the love and the caring for the people in Ukraine, Lord, and thousands and millions of people are hurting today because of what has happened in their country. And we just pray that you lay your hand of safety and love and care upon them this day. We ask this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that prayer, Commissioner Heberling. Moving on, Leslie, could you please do roll call?
Yes. District 1 Chairman John Black.
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Gary Heberling.
Here.
District 3 Commissioner Bill Sarkella.
Here.
District 4 Commissioner Roger Ballard.
Here.
District 5 Commissioner Joel Wyatt.
Present. Okay, additions, corrections, and deletions to the agenda. At this time, I with regret ask for an addition to the agenda to accept the resignation of our county administrator, Tara Griffith.
I will make a motion to amend their agenda.
We have a motion. Is there support? Support. We have support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion is carried. Moving on to the meeting minutes from our March 1st meeting. If there are no corrections, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard. Is there support?
Support.
We have support from Commissioner Heberling. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to correspondence, petitions, and introductions. We have received your correspondence on the green sheet. So at this time, we will move on to commissioner reports, and we will start with Commissioner Sarkella.
Attended Port Sanilac a couple weeks ago. They're working through their harbor master vacancy with an interim harbor master. So they hope to have an opening. They've advertised for the position and they've got almost a full staff on hand. Want to commend the Sheriff's Department for having the jail crew over there doing some work in Bark Shanty. They've been painting and doing some things. And I've also noticed the rig over at the museum as well. They're doing some new light poles in town. They're moving forward with their USDA water main grant, and they're also hiring a Parks and Rec coordinator, and they've had some applications for that as well. Croswell, the buildings that were burned are finally getting cleaned up. That should be done soon. They're working on their street sweeper. And of course, they had their bi-monthly CAT discussion on the issue down there. And they're going to continue funding that for the rest of the proceeds are gone. And then they have looking at a Parks and Rec for the synthetic skating rink in town, and also doing some things with the park and potential kayak launch down on the river. And they did approve an ambulance purchase. And then Sanilac Township is working on their COVID money, road and gravel. They're going to utilize some of that. And they continue to have a fire millage discussion. It looks like they're going to be moving forward with that, with a fire EMS millage. And of course, every individual municipality that I attend, there always seems to be some discussion about a county fire authority. So as purchases become more and more frequent, they need more equipment and so forth. There's really some discussion with that as well. And potentially it may end up in that realm somewhere in the future. That's all I had.
Excellent report, Bill. Commissioner Hebling?
Yes, thank you, John. Tonight we have our planning meeting at the DTF building. And as you may or may not know, we've been trying for probably the last 3-4 years to update our master plan for the county. And we set that as our goal for 2022. And we put out RFPs to hire a consultant to help us with that, basically to walk us through it and do it. And we'll be opening up those bids tonight. And we will hire one of the two consultants that have RFPs in there. So we're happy. We're going to move forward and finally get this done. Our goal is to have it done by the end of the year. I'll skip over the ARPA meeting that we had today and let Commissioner Block talk about that. We have a landfill meeting this afternoon, and I want to bring you up to schedule on the recycle building for the county east of Sandusky. We've put up a cold storage building last year about this time. That's complete. We had them come back, Boom Construction, fix up some things that need to be completed for the finalization of that building. And we also looked at our roof. The roof on there is for a better lack of terminology, a rubber roof. It's pulling away from the edges. And we put that out for RFP. Nick Lusher has been handling that. And also, we'd like to reorganize a little bit down there, but with where we set things and make it a little more accessible and user friendly. But we also recognize that the roll-offs that we bring in there are heavy. They've started breaking the cement up. So I had Nick Lusher and I went down. First of all, Greg Alexander and I went down, I think late last fall, and looked at it and measured it up. And we sent an RFQ out, and we had one, I think, at the time. So we're redoing the RFQ, and we're talking not only about putting cement off the road back to the building, but over where you people come in and get out of your vehicles and put your waste in the different baskets there. So we're still waiting on those RFQs, but that's their plan to move forward with that.
Gary, I got a question for you. You mentioned the breaking of the cement from the roll-offs. Is that old cement that was prior?
It's quite old.
Yeah, okay.
It's not as old as you and I, but it's old.
It wasn't the recently poured stuff that was affiliated with the building.
I think whenever, I don't know, Tara, I don't even know when that building was built. It was a truck repair years and years ago, but it's to the point we need to do.
You know, you mentioned that roof repair. Did we find out, is that wall pulling away? Is that why the parapet's pulling away from the?
No, the wall isn't pulling, but I'm glad you brought that up. It's a good question. Because of, and I said lack of better terminology, I call it a rubber roof, basically what it is. It's pulling away from the edges back this way in the front. And what's happened, the recycle committee last year had Boom try to patch that up because the bricks were starting to pull away because the water goes in behind that. Well, we didn't get to the roof in time, and it never was intended to do it immediately. We wanted to get RFQs. Well, more water got in there again, and they've started to push away. And it's a liability issue, and we can fix it, but we got to fix the roof first. That's causing the problem, the root cause, and then we'll probably have them put the bricks back up.
Thanks.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, as far as commissioner report, I myself have been talking with different supervisors and entities within township government to try to continue to provide assistance with ARPA. Not much assistance required though with the recent change. So everybody seems to be moving forward with that just fine. Roger?
Well, I attended the City of Marlette meeting since our last meeting. They're in the process of building a new pool house over there. They've been accepted for a grant, a recreation passport grant. So that's a good thing for the Marlette part. I attended Marlette Township meeting. Not really anything out of the ordinary there. But was it last week? We had our community mental health program committee meeting. I think it was last week. It's been a blur. I'm still learning there. That is one busy place. They have a lot of dedicated people and they're having the same issues a lot of people are with staffing, but they seem to be handling it very well. Then I attended the Michigan Works meeting last Friday in Lapeer. They seem to be getting more traffic coming in that are people actually looking to better themselves, get better jobs. They're not just coming in to put an app in because they have to. So they're doing quite well over there. One of the members of that board, Quentin Bishop, approached me after the meeting and wanted me to relay a message to our central dispatch and our sheriff's department and our first responders regarding the shooting of the Lapeer County deputy. They really outdid themselves. They were the first ones there, and they wanted to thank them for getting their guys out safe. So hats off to them. That's it.
Good report. Thanks, Roger.
Well, after the last special board meeting we had on the 9th, we had a personnel committee meeting. Gary and myself met with Judge Rathel for some ideas about receiving some additional revenue based on certain job classifications afforded under state requirement. So we're actively investigating that to see how the county can benefit from having a little bit of a reimbursement and different jobs that are being done on the court. Thank the judge for finding that, and we'll be keeping you posted on that. And I did want to say, Dave, I heard today on the radio, they were talking about a jobs fair in Lexington at the Moore Library. Do you remember the date on that?
I don't, that was Eddie's show, I don't.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, there is a jobs fair coming up. Roughly 200 employers are going to be at this jobs fair at the Lexington Public Library, the Moore Public Library, coming up within the next month. I can't remember exactly what it is, but they listed all the general employers in the area, including the Yogi Bear Park. What's that called, Jelly? I think that's one, and of course the camps and things like that. So one of the interesting things I thought of note was that there'll be plenty of jobs for people who are 16 years old and up. So if you've got teenage kids that are looking for something to do this year, there'll be a lot of opportunities for you to do that. It's a simple process to get your 16-year-old up to speed. Work permits are available at the Sanilac Career Center. Those are just required to comply with child labor laws. They're very easy to navigate through. And I encourage people to take advantage of that. Teenagers especially. That's it.
Thank you. Good report. Moving on to our administrator's report, Tara.
All right, well, since we met last week, we did get a debriefing meeting scheduled with Health Dimensions Group. Those are our consultants who are working hand in hand with us in the medical care facility. So we'll be meeting tomorrow. And then in addition, I posted an RFP for audit services. It's hard to believe it's been 3 years since we've been with Yo and Yo. We did have a 5-year contract, but policies change, so it requires us to bid out services every 3 years. So that's been posted. And then in addition, I've just been working on negotiations preparation. End of report.
Any questions for Tara? Hearing none. Thank you, Tara. Appreciate it. At this time, we are open for public comments related to agenda items. Are there any public comments related to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on. At this time, we have a presentation from Saginaw Bay Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. Mr. Krasner, welcome. Floor is yours.
Good afternoon, honorable board, members of the public. My name is Gedalia Krasner, and I am the invasive species coordinator for the Saginaw Bay SISMA. Can I just use this?
Yeah, sure can. I think I did.
So just to introduce what Saginaw Bay SISMA is, it stands for Ampersand Cooperative Invasive Species Management Area. We are a collaboration of environmentally concerned groups dedicated to supporting functioning ecosystems and enhancing quality of life through invasive species management. We have over 30 partner organizations in local, state, federal, and tribal agencies, for-profit and nonprofit organizations, universities and their affiliates, nature centers and land conservancies, and several others. And we provide invasive species resources to counties in the Saginaw Bay and areas, including Aranac Bay, Huron, Sanilac, Saginaw, and Tuscola counties. This is a representation of some of our partners. Looks like a few of them did not make it onto this somehow, but just kind of a representation of who it is that we work with. So why should you worry about invasive species? Invasive species threaten our economy, environment, and human health. Spotted lanternfly, which is an invasive moth that is expected to come into Michigan from New York. They feed on over 70 crop and hardwood species, including apples, grapes, maple, and can cause significant damage to various crops. Floating aquatic weeds like European frogbit and Eurasian water milfoil impede boat traffic, threaten fish stocks, can get in the way of duck hunting. Common reed drains natural wetlands, block waterfront access, and increases the risk of wildfire damage, in addition to many other issues. Swallowwort vines can often be ground up into hay that then poisons the livestock it is fed to. And an issue that I'm sure everyone is familiar with, the invasive Asian carp, often outcompete native fish and overtake habitats, occasionally causing fish crops to crash. In the United States, invasive species caused approximately $120 billion in environmental damage and related losses each year. This includes $5.7 billion a year lost due to aquatic invasive species in the Great Lakes region, and crop loss from invasive pests and diseases cost US farmers an estimated $40 billion a year. 42% of the species on the threatened or endangered species list are at risk primarily because of invasive species, and invasive species are actually considered the second greatest threat to extinction after habitat loss. The number of established invasive species in the US is expected to increase by 36% by 2050. So the next few pictures are just kind of some representations. Some representations of some of the invasive species we work with the most and what we're most concerned about. This is Japanese knotweed, which is an invasive shrub that can overgrow, can actually grow up to 30 feet tall, blocking out understory and keeping other plants from being able to establish. They also change the soil environment, making it toxic to other plants, and can damage pavement and roads with their very strong roots. This shows defoliation from the spongy moth, recently renamed from gypsy moth. They are a considerable issue, especially in Aranac County and Bay County that we've known of. Other counties as well, we have less reports of, but certainly have as much damage. And they can defoliate whole areas very quickly.
What do you do to fight that?
Spongy moth, there's a natural bacteria called Bacillus, we call it BTK, and basically you spray it over the trees when they first, when the leaves first emerge, and it kills the caterpillars that eat it. So that is a way of killing the caterpillars without affecting any other animals. And that has actually shown to be one of the more effective ways to do it. There are also a number of native diseases and native predators that help keep the spongy moth alive. And we try to do our best to support those.
Can you spell that? Spongy? Is that what you said?
Yep, spongy moth, SPONGY.
Spongy moth.
So do they ultimately kill the tree or just takes the leaves off for that year?
In almost all cases, the spongy moth does not kill the tree. It is hugely damaging and pretty gross. They leave huge piles of frass, which is what we call caterpillar poop. If it is a particularly bad year, they prefer broadleaf trees, which will re-leaf after they're initially defoliated. So those actually can generally survive if they're not under too much other stress. But combined with drought and other disease, it might kill trees, and in particularly tough years, when they have defoliated all the broadleaf trees, they will go onto the evergreens, which do not relieve and will not survive. So most of the time, they are kept in check pretty easily, but it can occasionally cause problems.
So do you fly this insecticide on? Is that how you-
We usually work with contractors for that, and we have a number of different contractors that we have worked with in the past, and spread information to people who are interested about
But
it.
you can control it then? No,
The system itself?
no, whoever you hire, I mean, the
Oh,
insecticide use, you can control it and get
yes.
it back,
Yep.
that's why.
Yes.
It's not a lost cause.
It's not a lost cause. I will say that Spongy Moth is a cyclical issue. So you will generally have 2 years of very heavy defoliation and then another 10 years of nothing. And part of that is due to the natural predators and diseases that help keep the populations in check. And that is something that comes from a lot of research in finding out what is naturally effective, supporting the habitat of things like the white-toed mouse that feed on them, and keeping our efforts from damaging native parasitoids that lay on the eggs and kill them that way.
I got a couple questions, if you don't mind.
No.
Is this the moth that we had problems at the southern border of Sanilac and a lot of St. Clair County had problems with? And is this the one where people were doing treatments around the circumference of their trunk to prevent the caterpillars from climbing back up?
That does sound like like the same treatment. So there is a method you can use that's called banding. Some people use other sticky substances, duct tape, and basically the caterpillars are nocturnal, so they will climb down from the tree during the day and climb back up at night. So those sticky substances are meant to collect them. In a very widespread area, it's not particularly effective for individual landowners with an acre to half an acre. It can be more useful, but in the long run, not as effective as we would like.
Well, yeah, clearly, but when you've got homeowners that don't have a
Yeah.
widespread solution, it's about the only thing they can really do.
Absolutely, yeah. And that is generally a good way to keep it in check.
So this was those caterpillars that were dropping down on everybody at campgrounds. Some campgrounds had to close. It was ridiculous.
Yes, yeah, and we were talking a lot about that, especially up in Aranakan Bay, that people were driving over them on their pavement. It sounded like they're crunching gravel. It's very disgusting, very gross.
Are there any Michigan counties that pay for that service?
Bay County, I know does. They have a particular gypsy moth village. The problem is that since it is cyclical, a lot of times people are willing to pay for it when it is a problem. And then when it stops being a problem and you have several years of no issue with the bug, those villages go away. So a lot of times people don't realize it's a problem or going to become a problem before it's too late. So we do support the Bay County Office of Environmental Affairs. They go out yearly to survey the areas that are considered high value or highly susceptible and check to see what the proportion of new egg masses are versus old egg masses. And they can use that information to tell how bad the year is going to be and then prepare accordingly.
St. Clair County is actually doing that.
Yeah.
And this is our last photograph here. This is a species, it's a little hard to tell here, but everyone in the Great Lakes, I'm sure, is familiar with, is zebra mussels. And this just kind of shows how closely they can grow. In the Great Lakes, they cover native mussels, which are actually very valuable to the Great Lakes. And you can get 20 on a single mussel and they kill them off in very wide groups. I'm sorry, there wasn't one more picture. These were actually taken in the Saginaw Bay by our monitoring crew team. So these are two of the biggest issues we are currently dealing with. These little lily pad looking things are called European frogbit, and they form these huge masses that clog drains, and block light from getting into the water. Up in Augrey, they pretty much stop any water from getting through. And then of course you have Phragmites, also known as common reed, which is a pretty big problem all over Michigan. And you can see just how close they grow. In some areas, they can grow up to 30 feet tall if not kept in check. So this is a majority of what our work is trying to keep these in check. How do we address these issues? So the Saginaw Bay SISMA receives grant funding from the Michigan Invasive Species Grant Program through the DNR for education and outreach. Grant funding from other sources, federal and private and state, provide invasive species prevention, detection, and management efforts. We collaborate with state, regional, and federal initiatives to report and record invasive species infestations. We conduct post-management surveys to inform future management activities, and a lot of that entails dealing with private landowners on how to continue efforts after initial treatments. So if we conduct a treatment of Phragmites on someone's property, we won't necessarily have the funding to continue that, but we can teach landowners how to do that on their own. And we build public awareness of invasive species and best management practices through presentations like this. What can we do for you? Saginaw Bay SISMA offers a wealth of different opportunities. We build community awareness on invasive species issues, train partners and landowners to identify invasives and best management practices for dealing with them. We educate the public on the importance of invasive species prevention, train landowners to control invasive species without damaging non-target plants and animals, inform the public about native planting alternatives, provide early detection rapid response network to responding to watchlist species such as the spotted lanternfly. We can provide invasive species surveying and management on a case-by-case basis, depending on grant funding availability. We connect individuals and organizations with contractors and grants for additional assistance. We provide grant writing and permitting assistance, and that is to private individuals and public. Anybody who needs permitting assistance can work through us. We connect them to resources from partner organizations, including local, state, federal, and tribal authorities, and we treat priority invasive species on a high quality or valuable spaces. So why am I here? Saginaw Bay SISMA relies very heavily on our active partners to identify problem areas and to inform the public about the resources that are available to them. Much of our activities right now take place in 3 of our 6 counties, Aranac, Bay, and Saginaw. We want to spread our efforts into the thumb counties to help determine what areas need to be dealt with in each of these spaces and how we can work with the organizations to deal with the invasive species as best we can. Partner organizations help us reach new audience and broaden the scope of our management activities, and collaboration with the thumb counties will allow us to provide resources. So there are some things you can do to limit invasive species and promote invasive species awareness. Encourage the use of invasive species tracking services like MISN and ADD Maps. Promote state and federal campaigns like Don't Move Firewood, Clean, Drain, Dry, Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers, Reduce Invasive Pet and Plant Escapees, and the Go Beyond Beauty campaign, which is not yet a statewide campaign, but it is in the process of becoming one. You can direct landowners with invasive species concern to the Saginaw Bay SISMA so we can address their concerns. Distribute outreach materials to appropriate parties, and I actually have some of those here. You can attend SISMA presentations and events. We hold them fairly regularly and always promote them to our partners. And this is purely on a voluntary basis, but we have a number of organizations on our steering team that help determine where our priorities lie and what we should be focusing on. And so far, we do have representation on that steering team from every county except for Sanilac, and we desperately would like some representation of Sanilac so we can help determine what you guys need. And that's it. There's some of my contact information for anybody looking to reach out to me, you can learn more about us at www.sbcisma.com or contact me at sbcisma@gmail.com. I also have some cards available that I can leave with the front office for anyone who's interested.
Well, your acronym stands for invasive species management.
Cooperative invasive species.
Correct. But the invasive species management part, right? I mean, I imagine that's kind of like your core mission, right? Managing where they go, the impact that they have in this place. How successful have you been, in managing those invasive species? And what's been the positive results and the attempts at doing so? What real benefits have we seen?
Sure. Well, it really depends on which invasive species you're talking about. As far as the Saginaw Bay Sisma goes, most of what we are dealing with is what we would call widespread species like Phragmites, which are already very well established in Michigan. And unfortunately, when you have something so widespread and so difficult to control, eradication is next to impossible, but we can keep it from spreading to new locations, and we can keep the damage that it does to the areas that it's in down as much as possible. In terms of actual management and keeping invasive species out of an area, that is why we developed what we call early detection and rapid response programs, and that is to deal with invasive species that are expected to invade and have not. So for instance, balsam woolly adelgid is considered one of our watch list species. They recently found an infestation in, I believe, Oakland County that was identified very quickly. They addressed the situation. They found the tree in which it was identified, checked all the surrounding trees to make sure they had not spread farther than that, and eradicated the population that they found. And that has been pretty vital to keep it from spreading. So there are a lot of different factors to consider when managing invasive species. And a lot of what we focus on is giving partner organizations the tools they need to keep those under control.
Well, you mentioned the Phragmites, for example, and how that they propagate quite rapidly. They're difficult to control. Try to manage them in specific areas. I assume those would be your high quality or valuable spaces that you're trying to manage, which means it has a value to the individuals or the community in which that they are in, right? Whether for product or whether for recreation purposes or whatever the reason is. So that's kind of a subjective
Yes, it is.
manner in which to describe whether it's invasive or not. May I ask you, for Phragmites, does that not give a home to some species of animal that takes refuge in the Phragmites?
So actually, one of the biggest issues with Phragmites is that it replaces natural wildlife habitat. There are a number of species of birds that will typically nest in native wetland reeds and other plants in those habitats that are replaced by Phragmites. There is one bird that actually fares fairly well, and that's the red wing blackbird. But any other of those native bird species are actually losing a lot of what makes them valuable. And it even affects deer. Deer have trouble navigating through Phragmites, and it replaces food sources as well. So Phragmites really has a lot of negative consequences.
Yeah, I'm from Harrison Township. I'm familiar with Phragmites out there in the marshes area. We have a regular burn, which sometimes gets out of hand.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that when you go by the Phragmites, they're not, horrible to look at, and they do house species of animals that take refuge in it. And, you do see critters in and out of those marshes.
Well, there is a native species of Phragmites. The one we're concerned about is actually a subspecies called Phragmites australis. So the native one does support a number of different species. The non-native one does not have that same kind of benefit. I'm unsure which one it is, and I'm not, sure how well it benefits those native plants, but all available research indicates that it replaces a lot of the valuable resources we want.
You showed the partnerships there. One was Michigan State University.
That's correct.
What do they support you with?
So we actually work with a number of different organizations within the Michigan State University Extension. So we are very closely associated with Michigan Sea Grant and the Michigan 4-H clubs. And we work with them in a number of different ways, a lot of which is outreach. We've applied for different grants with them as well, and are conducting some scientific analysis as well. So one of our major grants right now, we are doing Phragmites treatment in Hampton Township over in Bay County. And we are working with Michigan State Extension and Michigan Tech to provide mapping to get a better sense aerially of what habitats are more likely to have Phragmites.
So your organization would be willing to be a resource that this county could use to defer constituents of ours that are having issues with invasive species.
Absolutely.
So would you, I don't know that we would do this, we could have a conversation about it, but would it be okay with you if we were to have a resource connecting residents from this county to your organization and say the county website?
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That's absolutely what we're here.
Because I actually ran into this issue last year. I had a constituent reach out to me that was dealing with some kind of bug that was eating your trees. And, you know, being a new commissioner last year, first thing I did was reach out to the county to see if we provided some resource in that way, which we currently don't. And I was really at a loss as to what to tell her. So I referred her to, you know, you have to get a hold of a private pest control company.
Right.
Had I known this, I would have certainly shared, which would be, not only are you able to provide a resource to that resident, but then you're aware of that invasive species issue, which helps you with your ultimate goal, which is a greater understanding of what's happening.
Absolutely, yes. We would be thrilled if you would host our website.
Okay, so that's something that we can have a conversation about. And further, you identified that this Sanilac County being the only county that doesn't have a direct representative that serves on a steering committee of yours. Is it typically county commissioners that you have serving on that, or is it simply a member at large from the community?
So most of our organizations are conservation districts. We have a representative from each of the 5 conservation districts. We have one from the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe, which has several areas of land within the Saginaw Bay Sisma. We also have representative from the Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy and Hampton Township, Michigan. So there's not really, considering that the conservation district of Sanilac County is Blue Water Conservation District and serves for both Sanilac and Lake St. Clair. I believe they work mostly with Lake St. Clair Sisma, so they do not cooperate with us as much. We have reached out to them in the past and have not been able to make that connection. But any partner who is interested in serving, we would welcome.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement for sure and see if we can find somebody.
Absolutely, I would appreciate that.
You know, the identification of an invasive species, you mentioned, you know, I guess, is this the group, each individual SISMA organization makes a determination of what's considered invasive or not based on the input of their members?
So there are a number of resources for the public to report invasive plants. And basically when that happens is we look at the report, look at pictures or visit it ourselves and determine there if that is one of the invasive species we are concerned about. So there is a tool called MISIN, which stands for Midwest Invasive Species Information Network, which is also through Michigan State University, that you can use on your phone. It is available on both the Apple and Android app stores, and use that to, whenever you come in contact with an invasive species, to record that.
Well, you know, it's interesting only because we have a history of introducing invasive species into environments for the express purpose of controlling whatever it is there to make a high quality or valuable asset even more high quality and more valuable. I imagine if you asked the SISMA in St. Clair, Lake St. Clair about the zebra mussels, you might get some pushback at eradicating those zebra mussels, the conditions that they created in those waters. Well, at first, you know, most everybody was against it, but my understanding is the walleye fishermen appreciate those clearer waters. It's given habitat for growth of aquatic species that have given shelter to juvenile fish that have in turn produced walleyes of substantial size. So while it was an invasive species at one time and it was the desire of everyone to eradicate it, now it's got some potential benefits and upsides. Does that happen occasionally with those?
Yeah, and I will say a lot of what we deal with are invasive species that were released on purpose. For instance, the Asian carp were initially released as fish stock and took over instead. As far as zebra mussels go, those ones are a little bit tricky. They were released by accident in the ballast of ship water. But while they are notorious for completely cleaning all the detritus from the lake, which might seem like a valuable resource, but that also removes a lot of the food source for smaller fish that support the ecosystem itself. It also contributes to the growth of undersea plants. So you can see a connection with zebra and quagga mussel infestations to the growth of Eurasian water milfoil and starry stonewort that can then take over the entire area. So it's tricky what does and does not benefit. And generally there are a number of non-native introduced species that actually benefit us in a huge way. Honeybees, for instance, are something that are extremely valuable to us. We become concerned with an invasive species when they impact economy, ecology, or human health. And as far as the zebra mussels go, they may benefit walleye fishermen, but that can also impact other kinds of sports fish, including salmon and trout.
Did you say salmon and trout?
Yes.
Salmon, which were brought here artificially in the first place. So
Also very true. That's also very true.
Okay.
It's a tricky subject for sure.
It really is. And no matter what you do, you're kind of.
It says, whatever you do, there's a consequence. Whatever you do, no matter how good your intentions were. Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with you. And that does make it very tricky. But we try to do the best we can.
Well, that's life.
That's life.
That was a good presentation.
Thank you.
I do have just a statement. We do have 4 parks in our county. I'm chairman of it. Gary's on the board. 3 are on Lake Huron, 1's on the Cass River. And I see the Cass River Greenway as a partner up there. So
Yes.
that's good to see. And I'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
We have dealt with Phragmites at Delaware Park up on Lake Huron.
Yeah.
Have managed to keep it in check pretty well.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cass River Greenway is actually, they're one of our oldest partners. We've worked with them for a while and are happy to continue working with them.
Yeah, they do a lot of good for the
stuff.
river.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you again.
Yes.
And please leave your literature.
Yes.
And we will have a conversation about adding you as a resource for our residents for invasive species.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to some interviews for some appointments to community mental health. Will, do you have your board members here for interviews or?
The 3 existing board members that I have none of them were able to attend.
Yep.
I can speak for them who'd like, and the new appointee application, I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's here.
Okay, so I've got Robin Orange, William Gray, John Bruce. Okay, and Jessica Simon.
I can speak to the first 3, not the 4th one.
If you'd like to, we'll have you up here,
Yeah.
sure. These are non-contested, so.
Right, and all 3 of them have been very good board members, some for a really long time. Robin Orange has been on our board for over 22 years. She is a secondary recipient. She has a son who receives services from us. So she represents the perspective of a parent, which is one of our required positions on our board. Very good board member. Unfortunately, she had a family conflict, so she couldn't be here. So she apologizes for that. Second on the list, Bill Gray. Most of you probably know Bill Gray. He was, I believe, in charge of the drug task force for years here in the county. He provides a law enforcement perspective to our board. He has been our board now for 6 years, very, very active. He had a medical appointment today, so he couldn't be here. Third is John Gostra. He's, I believe, a CPA. He's from the Lexington, Port Sanilac area. He's been on our board for over 6 years. He's on the tax review board, and he had a legal obligation to be there, otherwise he'd be here.
Tax review board, he's having more fun than we are, huh?
I told him that, so yeah, but that's really all I mean, they were all three very, very vested, very interested board members. The fourth applicant I have never met, so I was actually hoping you're here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here. It's always a pleasure to have you here. We appreciate you speaking on their behalf.
All right, thank you.
We'll move on now to interviews for our pension plan board. We have Matt Armstrong. Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Sandusky, graduated in 2002. And from there, I went to Ferris State University, got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, minor degree in psychology. And from there, I got hired with the Salem County Sheriff's Office. I was there approximately 3 years. I left in 2009. I went to Kentwood, and I was there about 9-10 months due to the economy. I got laid off. Under Sheriff Brad Roth reached out and hired me back here, and I've been back here ever since. In 2015, I got promoted to sergeant, and I've got a lot of responsibilities with that. I'm in charge of our accident reconstruction team, our field training officer program. So I work with new hires and getting them through the process to be on their own. I'm also in charge of our volunteer aero squad, our volunteer dive team. I also oversee our law enforcement contract with the village of Port Sanilac. I'm very involved with that. So in the past, I've also been involved with union. I've been president of union prior to me becoming a supervisor. I'm in a different union now. And I was involved with the union for 4 to 5 years. And then this position became open and I applied for it, especially with just like the courthouse and anywhere else. We have a lot of new faces at the sheriff's office that are just trying to get their feet wet and learn the job. Let alone trying to learn the retirement system and that type of thing. And I've been around for 15 years. So I feel that I'm a good candidate and not looking to reinvent the wheel, just be a representative of the sheriff's office and put my 2 cents in when needed.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt?
Well, Matt, you're looking to become part of a board that is on a time frame of extinguishment, right? I mean, it's going to expire. I mean, right? We don't have a pension anymore. You got people putting it in. Once we're done, we're done. How do you feel about that, where the county doesn't have a pension anymore for new hires?
Well, there's still a aspect of the whether it's the defined benefit or the defined contribution. There's still a retirement plan that still needs to be managed on our sites, whether it's the defined benefit portion or whether it's the defined contribution where we're managing the money that the Sanilac County gives to the employee. There's still a part to manage that. So it's the defined benefit plan is going to be a thing of the past and in the future, but there's still a retirement plan to manage. So
That board meets quarterly, so not as frequent as some of the others that you could potentially be involved in. So if your participation on that board is as good as Port Sanilac's service has been received by you guys, you'll do a fine job.
I appreciate it, and we enjoy our partnership with Port Sanilac. It's been a win-win for both parties, the sheriff's office and the village. That meeting's tonight.
So you've done a lot of things and been part of a lot of things. You've never had to give the news at WMIC.
No, I have actually.
Oh, that would be probably forced, right?
I didn't mention that. I haven't worked with Dave, but my parents are retired teacher from Sandusky, and my dad's been with the radio station since I think the radio was invented.
Yeah.
So
He does a great job.
He's not listening.
I'm gonna tell him.
So yeah, I spent my time in high school on the radio. So, and I did get to I ran the board during Lions games, so it wasn't all bad. I was able to get paid to listen to Lions game. So.
Good. Any further questions for Matt?
No, thanks.
Hearing none, thank you for being here. We appreciate your service to your community.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Tell your mom and dad hi.
I will.
Haven't seen them in a while.
Up next, we have Michael Bowers, the medical care facility representative. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for the opportunity, and our representative is going to retire from the facility, so I've been asked to represent the facility here today, or ask for that representation. So unlike Matt, I'm not going to tell you what year I graduated. So, but I was born and raised in Marlette. I lived in the county. I now live in Sandusky. Lived in the county all my life. I'm a nurse over at the medical care facility. My main role over there is I'm the nursing and new employee educator and the emergency preparedness coordinator. So my background came from the fire service. I was over in Marlette for 25 years. I was a fire chief for 10 years and retired from that. So I sat on many boards with that, and through the medical care facility, I sit on a Region 3 disaster preparedness board, a planning board, and I'm the chairperson advisory committee, which is 14 counties in our region. And we allocate funds from the federal people to help all healthcare facilities, medical control authorities, that with disaster planning. So my main two jobs over at the facility are the nursing educator and emergency preparedness coordinator. So I guess I'll go off his answer and question that you had as far as the defined benefit. It's always been my interest. I've been with the facility for 18 years. This is my 18th year, and I understand that that's a great benefit to have if you have that defined benefit, which they are going away in a lot of places. But as long as it is a benefit, I wouldn't mind getting my feet wet and learning more about our county pension plan and maybe helping plan that in the future.
Okay. Any further questions for Michael?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Moving on to Planning Commission Board, we have Paul Colley. Paul, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Paul Colley, I've been here all my life, working in one way or another. 38 years on police force, 3 years as city manager for the city of Sandusky. I was on the planning board at that time for there. Retired. I got time to do it. If you have any questions.
Paul's also sits on the board of Sand Lake Transportation Corporation for how long?
Long time.
Yeah. Everything Paul does is for a long time.
Yeah.
11 years at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Paul, you were one of our detectives for several years with the sheriff department.
Yes, I retired as a detective.
Any further questions for Paul?
Did you say you were the city manager of Sandusky for 3 years?
Was that the most fun you ever had?
Worse. I mean, you expect bad people to lie to you, but you don't expect people who should know better to lie to you.
It's a tough lesson to learn.
Yes.
You're not lying to us now, are you?
Well, it's Commissioner Heberlin and I are on the County Planning Commission, so you'll be working with us, and we got a pretty good crew over there.
And we had a meeting at 4:30 today.
Yes,
We do.
Today. Get your feet wet today. Like
Looking forward.
Commissioner Blat said, we got a good group and welcome aboard.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
I'll try my best.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, next is Region 7 Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council. We have Pamela Acton, which I don't believe can be here. And so then we have William Walters. William?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for listening. I'll give you a quick background of what I do for Region 7's Advisory Council. Region 7 is made up of 10 counties: Huron, Sand Lake, Tuscola, Saginaw Bay, Midland, Gratiot, Isabella, Clare, and Gladwin. About 6 of them are rural like us, and 2 or 3 of them are mainly big cities. We also have a labor representative, a minority representative from the Chippewa Indian tribe, and a healthcare representative. Over the last several years, my fellow members have elected me chairman of the advisory council, which I currently serve as. Under the bylaws of Region 7, I have to serve on the Michigan Senior Advocates Council, which is made up of AAA members across the state. We meet monthly in Lansing to advocate for seniors and their programs. Also under the bylaws, I am the liaison to the board of directors, which I'm currently serving as the board secretary. And the executive director appointed me to the Complete Community Care Organization, which is an offshoot from Region 7. We provide direct care work to the Sand Lake, Huron, Tuscola, and the other counties. I'm pretty busy. And we also have the PACE program down in St. Clair County. They're not part of our region, but they are becoming part. Put up a PACE building called Sunrise PACE, program for all-inclusive care of the elderly. If you sign up for PACE, you give up your Medicare, Medicaid, but you get the same services through PACE, all in one place. And I'm in the PACE program has a member or consumer advisory council, and I've been designated to serve on that board. I'm quite busy. I enjoy what I do. At one time, Sand Lake County had 6 dining congregate meal sites. Due to the pandemic and other assorted reasons, we're down to 2. Yesterday, I was at the Sandusky High Rise. They were playing bingo. And as an offshoot, the prizes for bingo from HDC, which is Human Development Corporation, with bananas and oranges. So they're trying to make sure that the seniors eat well. Last week, I was in Marlette at the VFW Hall. There were 14 people there. They play cards. They eat their lunch and then they play euchre. And they're pretty tough. I respectfully request that you reappoint me for another term. I enjoy what I do. I think I'm good at it. I know we serve thousands of seniors who don't know who I am, and that's wonderful. We have, last year, we spent $500,000 on hearing aids for consumers. We spent $100,000 on dental work and $100,000 on eyeglasses. We are a true nonprofit. If we have any money left over at the end of the year, we spend it on seniors. I could talk for hours about what we do. I know you've got a big agenda. I appreciate your support. Thank you for any questions. I'll try to answer.
Any questions for Bill?
You're one of our fellow commissioners in the past also.
I'm on the wall up there.
I know you are. Yeah.
We won't hold that against you.
I put my time in. Thank you.
Bill, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your service to your community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
It's time for intermission.
I left my phone in the car. I was at a training session one time. The guy doing the training said, unless you're a doctor or a policeman, turn off your phone. If you can't turn off your phone, please leave.
Clear expectations, right?
Pretty drunk.
Thank you, everyone that showed up to be here to be interviewed. We appreciate everyone showing up to speak to us. So at this time, we're going to move on to appointments to standing committees. We have 4 people to be appointed to community mental health. 3 of those are full 3-year terms. 1 of those is a partial 3-year term. Being these are non-contested races, I'll entertain a motion to appoint the first 3 names for full 3-year terms.
So move.
Support. We have a motion from Roger and support from Joel to appoint Robin, William, and John to full 3-year terms. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to the partial 3-year term that will be filled by Jessica Simon. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella and support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Planning Commission Board, We have a partial 3-year term. There is one person for one position. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Paul Cowley to that position.
I'll make that motion to appoint Paul.
Okay, so we have a motion from Gary, support from Roger. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to the pension plan board. We have Michael Bowers and Matt Armstrong, both filling partial 3-year terms. I'll entertain a motion to appoint these two.
Make that motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Heberlin and support from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to Region 7 Area Agency. We have two names to be entered into nomination. I'll entertain a motion to enter these names into nomination.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
We have a motion from Gary and support from Roger to enter Pamela Acton and William Walters into nomination. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Everybody's got their ballots.
Yep.
Just a correction, my name too, my last name is no S.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
Last name is what?
Bauer,
Bauer, right.
there's no S on the end.
Oh, got it.
Bowers.
It does say it as, okay, got it. Bauer.
All right, unanimous, William Walters.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your support.
Thank you for serving.
And to everybody who applied and everybody that's taking part in this great experiment of the United States of America and the way we run government here, thank you for being involved. It's important.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to county commissioner appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. We're finished. County commissioner chair appointments, we have none. There are no general resolutions. So we'll move into commissioner committee reports, and we will start with Commissioner Wyatt.
You know what? I gave that with my commissioner report.
I caught on to that.
Yeah.
As well. August Parks did meet. We have a lot of projects in the works. We had another drawing here for another one. If we didn't have enough. We back in the fall, we received a grant from Michigan Economic Development Commission that Representative Beeler had put in for us. It's for $20,000. And we decided to use that on an ADA unisex bathroom addition to the Lexington Park bathhouse. There is no handicap facility there, so, and we do want to add a couple of handicap accessible cabins in the future. So we thought we better get some of the infrastructure in the meantime. So we'll be working on that.
Okay, thank you. I myself had a health board meeting this morning. A few things that we're working on the Board of Health is we're dealing with evaluations of administrators. In the past, just Brian's position as the health officer was part of the evaluation process. We are now going to include our medical director, which is currently Mark Hamid, in that process as well to provide an evaluation to him. And further, the Board of Health is aiming to change their bylaws. They're looking to add a provision to allow members of the Board of Health to attend virtually and vote virtually. That's still being discussed. I requested that there be a legal opinion offered as to whether that even follows the OMA. If it does, and the board was to adopt something of that nature, we're working towards creating controls to ensure that these board meetings don't turn into virtual meetings, on a consistent basis. It needs to be for a defined reason, and there has to be some accountability. So that is what we're dealing with at the health department. We did have a ARPA committee meeting today, not a ton on our agenda because we are in the waiting period for our department heads or anyone in the county to provide the competitive grants with the application that we put out. So we were just doing a little housekeeping today, lining things up. We will be getting those applications on basically April 15th. And so the ARPA committee will then be meeting a few days after that. We'll start looking at them, but we are prepared with a process to evaluate. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'm like Commissioner White. I gave most of mine report, the commissioner report and the committee report both. I do want to say a couple of things. One thing, actually, at the beginning of the year, I was placed on the Parks and Recreation Committee, and I always heard a lot about it as Commissioner Ballard brought everything to the board here to vote on, but it's truly been eye-opening, and there's a lot of moving parts going on, and that committee does a great job. They have a lot of things to take care of every day. It's basically a full-time job, but I'm glad I was put on there, and we got a good group of people on that committee.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Bill?
Attended the opioid webinar for remediation just to see what that process was and how it was moving forward. We can expect potentially our first payment sometime in April. Not sure about the dollar amount yet. And obviously the funds will be restricted on how they can be utilized, probably for first responder support somehow. And then I sat in on the Ag and Tourism virtual meeting out of Lansing last week. They're updating their Ag and Tourism platform, focusing on farming, timber management, and then of course, tourism as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move on to unfinished business. We have none, so we'll move on to new business, starting with FA 038-22, approval of 2022 current claims.
The San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified on the accounts payable report dated March 8, 2022. The general bank account in the amount of $114,160.86.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Hebling. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 039-22, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments and establishes the following accounts as listed.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella. Is there support? Support. From Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 040-22, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged to February 2022.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged to February 2022 as follows. $348,429.82. Checks of $283,064.26 for a total of $631,494.08.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 041-22, authorization to retain disposed vehicles from the motor pool.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes retaining the 2015 Chevy Equinox for motor pool utilization by reimbursing the tax foreclosure fund in an amount not to exceed $20,250 with funding from motor pool, and to further recommend authorizing the elimination of 2 additional motor pool vehicles through a trade-in, one 2005 Chevy Cobalt and one 2006 Chevy Uplander, which will offset the cost of a new vehicle for the motor pool fleet.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella and support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 042-22, award and authorization of bid for Lexington Park project.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the bid to Booms Construction at a cost not to exceed $96,000 for the purpose of construction of a stairway, ADA accessible boardwalk, viewing platform, shelter, and ADA pathway for Lexington Park with funding from the Parks and Millage.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella and support to Commissioner Heberlein. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 043-22, award and authorization of the purchase of a storage distribution cart, Sheriff's Office.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the bid to ASE Direct RX for purpose of purchasing a medication storage distribution card at a cost not to exceed $2,910.83 with funding from the commissary account.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella and support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there any discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 044-22, award and authorization of the purchase of an inmate restraint chair, Sheriff's Office.
Sonoma County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the bid to Handcuff Warehouse for the purpose of purchasing an inmate restraint chair at a cost not to exceed $2,650 with funding from the commissary account.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella and support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Just for everyone in the audience that sees us moving through these things, please know that each one of those items that was just approved was discussed in length at 2 weeks previous finance meeting. Just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. Thank you.
And it's worth you noting that it has in the past been a contentious issue about having a 2-week period in which we have a good discussion about those topics and then do the finalization of approval. But there's been an occasion where that 2-week period has allowed us to ask questions during the intervening time and actually get some answers that either supported or put down, that which we were voting for.
It definitely provides an opportunity to confer with constituents as well.
That's why we ask you all to stay for the finance and administration meeting. Don't just book out of here after this.
Okay, now we'll move on to our add-on item NFA 012-22, acceptance of resignation administration.
Sonoma County Board of Commissioners hereby regretfully accepts the resignation of Administrator Controller Tara Griffith effective May 8th, 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella. Do we have support? I can appreciate no one wanting to support.
I don't want to go on record for that, but I will support it.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to say without having any prior elected official experience, Tara made the transition to this new position as elected official. Not easy for me necessarily, but she made me feel like there was no question that I asked was stupid. She gave me context in which this job typically took place in and allowed me to, have the opportunity to ask questions and develop my own maybe style of being a county commissioner. And as I've asked her time and time again, which is a difficult thing to do for anyone, I said, you tell me when I'm acting like an idiot, where I'm not making any sense, or, whatever it is that can help me rid myself of my own personal biases and act on behalf of the constituents. And she gave me some hard words sometimes, which I took to heart. And sometimes we disagreed, and we respectfully disagreed and had a professional opinion of respect with one another. I think she's been a good county administrator as far as I can see. She's been mostly diligent and truthful. She's had the best interest of the county constituents at heart, the people that pay the taxes, that pay the property taxes, that pay everyone's salary here. The reason why, there's county services in the first place. And I appreciate her for all the work that she's done.
Thank you.
I would just like to add to that, Tara. You've done, I think, a great job. And I look at everyone sitting here in the different departments you come from. And hopefully in my 4th term, I worked with Kathy, I worked with both of you. It's probably one of the toughest jobs serving the county. And you have done a great job. Obviously, the COVID, I've said it many times in these meetings, the COVID made it extremely tough for everyone in our county and in the courthouse and in the sheriff department. And there were times that we questioned, are we making the right decisions, and did we do the right thing? And sometimes we didn't agree with Dr. Fauci, even in our own confines here. But we've had great leadership through it from Tara and the rest of the commissioners. And I will say this, Tara, you did your job very professionally. And I'll kind of regurgitate what Commissioner Wyatt said. You gave us good leadership, and we didn't know the answers. You dug into it. You helped us with grant. I mean, I could go on forever and ever. And I know in the political world, they call it a great patriot. And this, I'll say you're a great patriot in the job you did, and appreciate all you've done. And you will be missed. And thank you.
Further discussion?
You will be missed.
You grew into the position well. Yeah, I know it was you
I had 4 years. so-
you took quite a dive when you came here.
Yeah,
And
I did.
then, yeah, it's, but I get it. We talked.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Good luck to you.
Anything further? Hearing none, all in favor, signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Tara, there's no doubt that San Luis County is better off having had you here in this job position. Thank you for your
I appreciate
service.
that.
Okay, at this time, we will move on to general public comments. Is there any general public comments?
I have something I just want to bring up. I got a message from somebody. I'm not sure who it is. The job fair in Lexington is Thursday, I believe, the 17th. From 3 to 6 p.m. at the Lexington Moore Library. So thanks to whoever.
That's the 17th, you said?
Yeah, Thursday.
Good information. Thank you, Roger.
I won't be here. I'll be in. Nope, I'm in Florida.
What do the new commissioners come on?
Okay, so in this year's election, so there's been a little bit of a change in county commissioners, and I'll just kind of briefly explain that just because everybody's here. So we currently serve in 2-year terms. It's the way it's been since the creation of county commissioners in Michigan. The legislature passed a law, I believe it was this year, yet possibly last, that changed commissioner terms from 2 to 4 years. That will not take effect until after the terms of the commissioners that will be re-elected this year. So all 5 of us and 2 more commissioners from the 2 new districts that were created, because we've also gone from 5 to 7 commissioners in San Luis County, will all be on the ballot to be elected in, whether you're in a primary contention, but eventually in the November election. Those commissioners will take seat January 1st of 2023. And then on January 1st of 2025 will be the first day of the term, 4-year term of whoever gets elected at the following election. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Where you all gonna set up?
Well, Buildings and Grounds is working on that. We would like to stay in this room. I think it works well. Clearly, we were going to have to make some adjustments. When you look at, we're kind of set up here in a presentation type of format. We're seeing a lot of boards move away from that and getting more into a conference room style situation. So we'll see if we set it up something more similar to that, or if we stick with something like this, but it's a little yet to be seen. So.
Well, I'll tell you, Paul, it's been a concern of the last few boards to be as relatively conservative in finances as possible. And, adding 2 additional commissioners right off the bat's going to cost, 40,000+ when you say. Yeah, because you got insurance costs that are benefits as well and other aggregated costs. But we want to keep that to a minimum. So while we have the authority to create a new space and outfit it accordingly, we're going to keep it as lean as possible because we feel that we want the tax dollars to go to something that serves the people in the greatest measure possible. That's the tack that we've been taking with the ARPA funds, which in a sense are tax dollars designed to serve the public, not to serve the employees or the public servants, rather that we are all as deriving our funds from the county of San Luis.
So is everyone on a 4-year, going to be on a 4-year term, or are they staggered to, it's like some boards do?
It'll turn into a 4-year, everybody's on a 4-year.
Yep, completely new board.
2 years, you spend a lot of time campaigning. And then it takes probably a good year or 2 years to learn everything on it, and then bam, you're done. Yeah.
There's pros and cons of both sides. Personally, for me, I think if you bring a new commissioner on, Bill, you were here for a long time. Like you said, Paul, the first year you're trying to learn the ropes and understand who you're dealing with, and then a month later you're running for re-election, right? So,
Well,
I think it'll be a 4-year term will be.
And you never learn at all.
Well, doesn't that make it all the more an issue that you should concern about the House of Representatives? Here you've got positions that, in some races, they're spending over $1 million to become your House of Representative for 2 lousy years, right? And then they got to run again and again, and then they're out. You figured by the time you get 6 years in, you're just kind of getting a handle of what's going on, and then you're out.
doesn't make sense.
No, I mean, it's a topic of great discussion in America, term limits, whether they're acceptable or not. And maybe there's a compromise between, low-level term limits set and having people in office for, 4 years plus. They don't even know what a job is like, except for sitting in office. Maybe term limits are applicable for those kind of things.
But there's no start for that. The state. Well, there is.
There's no what?
Doing away with the 2 years for the state.
Well, for House of Representatives, for example, like Andrew Beeler's our state rep, I don't know if there's any urging on the part of them to do that. They may have discussed it or contemplated it. I'm frankly kind of shocked that it was an issue with, county commissioners, but apparently it was. The difference is county commissioners do not have a term limit. Yeah.
There is a move afoot in to make the term limits 14 years. And you can serve in either house for 14 years,
Mhm.
then you're out. That's on the drawing board still.
Yeah. Yeah, 6 years goes by really quick, doesn't it, Bill?
Yes, it does. 2 years goes by real
Yeah, it
quick.
does. Yeah, it does.
Okay, any further public comments?
John, what, if any, plan does the board have to replace Tara?
So we are going to dive into that during our finance administration meeting following this one, if you'd like to stick around. But, just so everybody's aware, we're not going to rush this process, but we're going to waste no time to begin the process. So it is very advantageous for us to get someone in here, preferably when she is still here, so there can be that transition of knowledge. Anything else? Hearing none. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to enter into closed session.
So moved.
I got it.
Where is it? Right here. I'm making a motion to go into closed session to discuss the collective bargaining negotiations.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Wyatt and support from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
My sister.
I'm glad to see you're back.
Over there. Yeah, I've been back from. Appreciate her getting right in there.